everybody, and welcome to episode 65 of All About African Violets. All About African Violets is musically sponsored by Ted Yoder. You can hear and purchase his awesome music on his website at tedyoder.com. It is also available from iTunes. Hi everybody, come on into my sunroom. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. It's been a sunny day in Chicagoland, a very beautiful sunny day. In fact, fall is definitely here. It's a little cooler, finally. And just a couple of cool evenings here, and I can start to see some of the leaves on the trees already kind of thinking that they're going to change color. Fall is my favorite time of the year, and so I'm kind of glad it's here. I'm very casual today. I've got one of my Iona t-shirts on from the Isle of Iona in Scotland, and I really need a haircut. I'm getting one tomorrow. But I thought we would, I had a lot of great questions left on the website last week, so I thought I would do my best to answer them today. So it's sort of question day. But before we get started, I just want to send a little shout out to my friend Kurt Jablonski. And Kurt, hey, hang in there. Kurt experienced something very similar to what happened to me back almost a year and a half ago now. He changed up some of his potting mix and he lost a lot of his plants. And it breaks my heart. I really feel for you. I've been there. And I just wanted you to know I'm thinking of you, and hang in there. I'm glad you've still got a few. He said he'd taken some leaves, and hopefully it's not the same thing that happened to me with the, having the micronutrient toxicity, because I was told by really expert folks on that taking leaves was not going to work for me. So I'm hoping that's not what's happening for you. And so hang in there and keep growing, because you grow awesome plants. Well, let's go to tips and treasures. Excuse me. I got some great questions here. Chuck had left you'll remember last week we talked briefly about chloramines, and I had no real experience with them. Chuck had asked a question about them, and Zal left a question. He left a comment on the website, and it was about chloramine. So thank you, Zal. And he said a carbon filter is one of the better ways of neutralizing chloramines. And I thought that was very interesting, because I had mentioned that I really didn't find that I had any issue with that. But I run my water through a Brita pitcher, which is a carbon filter. So I'm wondering if that is doing at least a little bit to neutralize some of the chloramines. I also know there was quite a discussion about chloramines this week on the Facebook African Violet Nerds group on Facebook. And someone, I tried to look back, but there's so much info that happens on a daily basis on Facebook that I could only get back about a couple of days before it really, really slowed down. But someone mentioned using an additive in the water that somehow was supposed to neutralize them in some way. I do not know what it is. So if any of you guys know or are familiar with a water additive that does work, to neutralize chloramines, please leave a comment on the website and share that with everybody. That would be great. So Zal, thank you again for leaving that info. I'm really glad to know that I'm doing something right by using the Brita pitcher. I use that for the water I drink. I use it for the plants. So it seems to be, I dropped my glasses. It seems to be working really well. I was getting ready to put them on to read the next question, which was from Ghislaine. And she says, what did I do wrong if a flower is simple instead of double? The plant is very young, so I took off the blossoms and will let the plant grow before letting it bloom again. Am I doing the right thing? Yes, Ghislaine, I believe that you are doing the right thing. We've had a discussion before. I know you're a newer viewer. That's fun to say. Newer viewer. Joyce Stork had given us some information about this, because I had questioned it myself, where I've had plants that bloom. They're supposed to be a semi-double, but they bloom single, or simple, as you might have said. As you said, I should say. what Joyce suggested is exactly what you're doing, to give it another bloom cycle and see what happens. Sorry, you guys, I don't know what's wrong with me. That kind of a gravelly voice. Something must have gone down the wrong windpipe. Anyway, I have found, you'll see that there's a plant missing today when you take a look at what's on the shelves. I did not keep Max Scorching Sun. It did not show any evidence of blooming semi-double. Every blossom on it was a single. And it took from February until September to bloom. And for me as a show grower, I'm just not interested in a plant that takes that long to come into bloom and then didn't even come into bloom with a giant head of blossom. So it's a beautiful plant. The foliage is gorgeous. The blossom is lovely. But for me, I chose to not keep that one and not wait another bloom cycle because I figured the next bloom cycle would be in July. So I let that one go. But I think you're doing exactly what you should be doing. You may remember that I did the same thing. I let was it cherry cola that I had that I let bloom again to see, because some of them bloomed double and some bloomed single. And so I gave it another bloom cycle, but it never really made it all the way. But give it another shot, and if you're not growing for show, it really doesn't matter. But if you are growing for show, then you may not want, if it doesn't come true in the next bloom cycle, you may want to let it go, okay? I hope that helps you. And the next question was from Irene. Irene says, did I hear, this was from what we talked about last week, from part of what I shared with you guys from the 10 propers. And she says, did I hear correctly that we should repot babies every 2 months until they are in their maximum sized pot? What effect, if any, would this have in the ability to see if something is blooming true, since most plants need to be a little root bound to bloom? That's a great question, Irene. Yes, you did hear correctly, and you may recall that I did say one of the things about the 10 propers is that some of the information is old and no longer really applies as much as it used to. And although I did learn from Dorothy Kosowski that you should be repotting, particularly standards, really kind of forcing them to grow and get larger if you really want to be growing some large plants, and repotting them every couple of months, just like I said, like I shared with you last week. You don't have to do that. That's just, it's just another style. How we all, it's so many things. There's so many ways to grow these plants that we love, that what works for one may not work for another, or may not be practical for another. I, as you've seen, generally keep a plant in the solo cup until I see how it's going to bloom. If it's going to bloom true, if I feel it's going to be worth my time to keep growing it and keep moving it forward. So that's a personal choice. You can grow, you can plant pot things on more quickly than 6 months for a standard. And she is really, that really does pertain to standards, that every 6 months until you get up, or every 2 months until you get up to the maximum size pot for the plant. You can try it, see if you like it. And if you're growing for show, it may, help you in that respect. And if you don't like it, you don't have to do it. So I hope that helps. We had one more question that was from Jeff, and this is a great question. He says, I have noticed that you use your curved nose tweezers to pluck upcoming bloom stalks and remove suckers. If you should disinfect cutting utensils used to make the angled cuts for propagation before use on other leaves, do you think you should disinfect your tweezers before using them on other plants? What a great question. Jeff, you certainly could do that. You absolutely could do that. I don't do that, as you have noticed. I do use when I'm using my X-Acto knife. This is what's really important about that. The plants that I have now have all gone through a very rigorous isolation process, and anything that I'm not making a cut on a leaf. I'm just grabbing an existing blossom stalk and giving it a twist to get it out, and then dumping it. It's the wet part of the, the inside of that, like what would be the inside of the leaf that you would cut. That's the points of the little tweezers aren't really touching that. They're not really getting wet. Okay, does that make sense? You certainly could do that. And if you have concerns about any of the plants in your collection, maybe having something that you don't want, that could be passed based on that, then yes, you need to be a little more careful. I've become more careful with my X-Acto knife with the blade because of the problems that we're seeing now with INSV, and that it can be passed from plant to plant. But remember, you need a vector to have that go from plant to plant. If you have thrips, then yes, you have to be thinking about that it could have been, something could be happening in that respect. I don't have thrips. I'm knocking on wood. I haven't had any thrips ever, really, not since I lived in Southern California. I better knock on wood again. But I am a little more careful. And again, remember, if you are getting leaves from somewhere else, a plant that's coming in, even though you have washed the leaf and put it down, that's when it becomes prudent for you, as you are making a cut, to then dip your blade in the soapy water, wipe it off before you make a cut in another leaf that you're putting down. So it's just a matter of precautions, of knowing what you have and being a little more careful. So good catch though, Jeff. Thanks for asking that question. Well, that's all the questions today. So that's our tips and treasures for today. We haven't really had a question day in a while, have we? So thanks you guys for leaving those. They were all great. So now it's time to take a look at what's on the stands. I'll be right back. Well, here we are. It's time to take a look at what's on the stands. And I'm here in the guest room. And here is Blueberry Sprite. And it is blooming well again. Although I'm not sure that it's ever going to be the same plant that it was initially. We'll see. I did some grooming this morning. I kind of took some blossoms that were trying to come on some of these plants. Let me just walk around. I want to show you. This is Grandifolia 237. And it's been up here. I took a few leaves off. I did a little more cleanup in the center there. So far, it's looking better than it was downstairs. So I'm going to leave it up here and we'll see how it goes. Powwow really likes it here in the guest room. I took a few rows of leaves off of Fresh Air. Here's Ionantha. Fisherman's Paradise. This one is not, you know what, I lost another leaf. Highly variegated plants will do this. They'll just get, the leaf will turn brown and it'll fall off, one of the older leaves. It's just sort of past its prime. It hasn't been as happy up here. I'm not quite sure. I know I mentioned thinking about taking this egg crate off, and I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet. This is Optimara Hawaii. It's growing quite well. It's got a couple leaves that could come up right here and right here, and I'll probably get that going here pretty soon. And let's just walk back this way one more time. Here is Zima obeatia. Here's Santee Sioux. So everybody's doing pretty well here. Let's go down to the basement. Everyone looking good here. Everyone on this tray, everything in this tray is a trailer, except for Buckeye Lost Love, which is not really growing very well. It's just sort of hanging here. I'm not sure what's up with that. Oops. Here are the plants that I potted up. They just came out from under the dome this week, actually just this morning. Here is the dome. Here's our challenge leaf from Carol Lee. Things are growing. Everything's growing here too. I think this Linda Darnell leaf is starting to lose it. The mama leaf, I think I'm going to pull that. everything looking pretty good here. Whoa. And in here, now this is very interesting. Taking a look at everything. Things are growing here with this species. I'm excited about that. You guys, I really want to have some of these growing. Really cool. And look at my Apicia. It's going like mad. I'm so excited that this one is growing for me. It's just awesome. Things happening over here. Looks like I'm about to have some blooms on Tenary's Royal Blue Trailer. And these are the plants that were up here. This was the first batch that I potted up, and most everything looking pretty good. I think I'm getting ready to move these upstairs. And Radar's Tensi is really, really yellowing. I talked about this last week, but it is really yellow. I'm not quite sure what's up with that. It looks like it probably does need to be repotted, and I'll take some leaves off at the same time. Let's go take a look at the strep shelf. Heartland's White Gold, Salmon Sunset, nothing happening on Dale's Polar Berries, and nothing going on Midnight Flame. But these guys are hanging out, so yay them. All right, let's go take a look upstairs in the sunroom. Well, here we are in the sunroom. Here's the top shelf. Everybody just kind of doing their thing. About to get some blossoms here on Champagne Pink. And I don't know if you can tell, I have raised the light on this shelf because these are all standards now. And yes, you can see that the Max plant that was here is no longer here. It did not bloom true. And it took so darn long to bloom that to me, that's not worth it for me to have to wait that long. And here is, this is interesting. I'm looking at my Columnia here, and the new growth is very small. So I'm thinking this might need to be repotted. Let me see, when did I pot it last? Well, I potted it in June. Wonder what's up with that. It's the Escananthus obconicus, looking good. Now the Fisherman's Paradise I moved out here was the smaller one. And after I repotted it, I moved it out here to the sunroom, and it's looking pretty darn good. So I'm wondering if this is a better location. Down here, Western Moon, Roulette, Buckeye Celebrity Status, looking good. Let's walk around. Texas Hot Chili, looking good. Here's my Jersey Snowflakes. I did some grooming on this, took some leaves off. Rob's Wagga Wagga still holding its own. And here is Optimara, Michigan. Let's look at the big box violet. Short stop in the kitchen. I wanted to show you my Petrocosmia carrii. And you guys, you know what? Because I'm not familiar, if this is the first time I've ever actually grown this variety, I know that it loses some of its lower leaves over time, but it seems to be losing a lot of them all at once. It's making me a little nervous. I'm not sure. I hope I'm not doing something wrong. Anyway, now let's go look at the big box violet. Still here, still holding its own. I let it bloom. I just, it's so pretty and I do like it, and it's not ever going to go to show, so I let it go ahead and bloom for another week. That's the look at what's on the stands this week. I'll be right back. So I did not get the big box violet repotted, but it's so pretty that I did just leave it and let it bloom for another week, because I'm looking at it, it's right over there. I just love having it here in the sunroom, and as the summer is fading and fall is arriving, fall is my favorite time of the year, but I love having it there, and it is because it's never going to go to show. I just let it bloom at will, and it's so nice to have it there and have it be so full of blossoms all the time, pretty much all the time. So, and as you could see, I did let Max Scorching Sun go, and you could see the new babies that I potted up, and you can see the other babies that I potted a week before, and you can definitely see the difference in the size just from one week to the next. And so everything is moving forward down there. Things are growing. I'm under 90 varieties, which is yay me. I'm excited about that. Heading down to be closer to 50. So it's definitely going to be a process over the next months of culling and letting things go and seeing what's growing and seeing how things do and deciding what I want to keep and deciding what I don't want to keep. So that's always interesting to me. And having started over and moving forward through this process it's really been interesting, and it's been educational for me as I see what kind of a grower I am now and how my choices and the things that I like and how those things may have changed over the years. It's kind of cool. So, well, you guys, it's time to get the bail money ready, and I have a very exciting show for you this week. And I hope, you know what, I told you guys about the Ohio State show last weekend, and it was happening this weekend. It's still going on, I think, on Sunday today when you see it. If you're in that area, I've seen some of the photos that have been posted on Facebook from it, and boy, it looks like a gorgeous show. So if you are in the area and can still get over there, I would go. I would definitely go. If it wasn't so far, I would have gone. But next week, this is exciting because in Florida, the African Violet Council of Florida's annual Judged Show and Sale is happening. And the theme is La Florida 500, which is the theme of the 500th anniversary of the discovery of Florida. So I think that's going to be a very beautiful show. And it's happening Saturday and Sunday, September 28th and 29th. And on Saturday, the sales room will be open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and the show itself will be open from noon until 6. And on Sunday, both the sales and showroom will be open from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it's at the Holiday Inn, St. Petersburg Clearwater Airport. So it's at a hotel, and that is on 3535 Ulmerton Road in Clearwater, Florida. And my friend Carolee Carter, she gave us the challenge leaf of Ma's Winter Moon. She'll be there. So if you are there, you can tell her you've been watching Winter Moon on the podcast, and you get to meet her. So you guys, it's time to keep moving forward. I want to really thank you again for being with me here today, and I want to share something with you that I'm going to be doing through the end of the year, and I might keep going, we'll see. On Ravelry, you guys know I'm a knitter and a spinner, a fiber artist, and on Ravelry, which is the online knitting and crocheting community, I read about something that another friend is doing, and she's calling it Project Zero. And what she's doing is trying to knit down, she's got what we call WIPs, or works in progress, and she's got a lot of them, and she feels like she's not getting them done. And she's got things in her house that she wants to do, and so she's doing this until the end of the year and really focusing on getting some things done and accomplished. Well, I thought this was a great idea, and I'm using it, and I've kind of added my own piece to it, which is my experience with the law of diminishing returns. And you've seen the law of diminishing returns in action in my Violet collection, because when I did a little bit of reading on this for a book I actually had to read for work, and it's called The Four Disciplines of Execution, I think, of the Four Disciplines of Execution. They called it 4DX for short. And one of the things they talk about in the first discipline is the law of diminishing returns. And that's the studies and things that they have done show that when you choose 2 to 3 projects or goals to focus on, you can usually achieve all those goals, 2 to 3 goals. If you choose 4 to 10 goals to focus on, you can achieve them and achieve them well, excellently, do well, get them accomplished in a good way. But if you begin to add to your list and have 4 to 10 goals, their research has shown that you get maybe 1 or 2 accomplished well. And if your list grows even further to 11 to 20 goals or projects, you get nothing accomplished well. You're not able to focus on anything well. And I'm a list maker, and I've always been a list maker, and I make this big long list for myself of all these things I need to do. And then I go crazy trying to do them all. And I thought, No, I'm not doing that anymore. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, you've seen that law of diminishing returns in action in my plant collection. Because for me, when I have too many plants, nothing gets cared for the way that it should be. That's part of why I'm so big on limiting your collection and why I'm working so hard now to limit mine. But what I've done is I've decided that no more than 3 main projects. These are extra things other than the whirlwind, what the book calls the whirlwind of everything that's going on in our lives anyway. You know, the laundry that you have to do and the dishwasher you have to load and just general stuff every day in your life. So I've made a list for myself of 3 goals that I will work on until they are accomplished. And then, of course, I still have my big long list, but I'm calling it my reserve project list. And and it's going to be a fluid list. And actually, it's on my personal blog. I will leave a link to that for you if you have an interest in that and seeing it and seeing what I'm doing. I have found it for myself in the past, not only with my violets, but obviously with my plants, that when I have a manageable number of plants, I am able to take care of them well. I know for me that that's right around 50 varieties. But I had a sweater earlier this year that had been on the needles for about 4 years that I had not finished. It was very, very intricate cabled sweater called St. Bridget, and I think I might have even shared it with you guys when I finished it because I was so happy that it was done. But earlier this year in January, actually, I picked it back up and said, I am not knitting anything else until this sweater is done. So that's kind of how it's working for me now, and I've just started this. And actually right now I have a very large collection of American art pottery that is going to auction. And some of the pieces were in the kitchen and they're kind of grimy and kind of greasy from being up above where my cooktop is. So my first goal was to wash all the Hall pottery that needs to be washed, and also catalog all the Hall pottery, not just the stuff in the kitchen, but the stuff all over the house, because the auctioneer is coming next Friday to pack it up and take it to auction. So those are my 2 most immediate goals. And my third one was to block a shawl that has been finished and just needs to be wet blocked. And it's one that you never know, it might appear at the auction next year at National. You guys might get a sneak preview of it once I block it. So anyway, again, I'll leave a link to my personal blog if you guys have an interest in that, if it's something that you think you might want to do. And for yourself, it's just kind of a personal challenge, and it's something that I'm working on, and I'm very excited about it because I feel like I can get a lot done if I can break it down into manageable pieces. Well, again, thank you for joining me this week. I hope that your days will be filled with all the things you love. Good growing. I'll see you next time.